The Giant's Ship. A North Frisian tradition relates that the giants possessed a colossal ship called MacLeod, which constantly cruised about in the Atlantic Ocean. Such was the size of this vessel that the captain was said to patrol the deck on horseback, while the rigging was so extensive and the masts so high that the sailors who went up as youths came down as gray-haired men, having rested and refreshed themselves in rooms fashioned and precisioned for that purpose in the huge blocks and pulleys. By some mischance it happened that the pilot once directed the immense vessel into the northern sea, and wishing to return to the Atlantic as soon as possible, yet not daring to turn in such a small space, he steered into the English Channel. Imagine the dismay of all aboard when they saw the passage growing narrower and narrower the farther they advanced. When they came to the narrowest spot between Calais and Dover, it seemed barely possible that the vessel, drifting along with the current, could force its way through. The captain, with laudable presence of mind, promptly bade his men to soap the sides of the ship, and to lay on an extra thick layer on the starboard, where the rugged cliffs of Dover rose threateningly. These orders were no sooner carried out than the vessel entered the narrow space, and, thanks to the captain's precaution, it slipped safely through. The rocks of Dover scraped so much soap off, however, that ever since they have been particularly white, and the waves dashing against them still have an unusually foamy appearance. This exciting experience was not the only one through which the Manifold passed, for we are told that it once, nobody knows how, penetrated into the Baltic Sea, where, the water not being deep enough to keep the vessel afloat, the captain ordered all the ballast to be thrown overboard. The material thus cast on either side of the vessel into the sea formed the two islands of Bornholm and Christancio. Princess Elise. In Thuringia and the Black Forest, the stories of the giants are legion, and one of the favorites with the peasants is about Elise, the lovely daughter of the giant Elisenstein. She was so charming that far and wide she was known as the beautiful Princess Elise, and was wooed by many knights, of whom she preferred the Lord of Westburg. But her father did not at all approve of her consorting with a mere mortal, and forbade her to see her lover. Princess Elise was wilful, however, and in spite of her sire's prohibition, she daily visited her lover. The giant, exasperated by her persistency and disobedience, finally stretched out his huge hands, and seizing the rocks, tore a great gap between the height where he dwelt and the castle of Westerburg. Upon this, Princess Elise, going to the cleft which parted her from her lover, recklessly flung herself over the precipice into the raging flood beneath, and was there changed into a bewitching Undine. She dwelt in the limpid waters for many a year, appearing from time to time to exercise her fascinations upon mortals, and even, it is said, captivating the affections of the Emperor Henry, who paid frequent visits to her cascade. Her last appearance, according to popular belief, was at Pentecost, 100 years ago, and the natives have not yet ceased to look for the beautiful princess who is said to still haunt the stream and to wave her white arms to entice travelers into the cool spray of the waterfall. I am the Princess Elise, and I dwell at the Elisenstein. Come with me to my castle, and bliss shall be mine and thine. With the cool of my glass-clear waters, thy brow and thy locks I'll have, and thou'lt think of thy sorrows no longer. For all that thou looked so grave, with my white arms twined around thee, and lapped on my breast so white, thou shalt lie and dream of Elfland, its loves and wild delight. Heine, Martin's translation. The Giantess's Plaything. The giants inhabited all the earth before it was given to mankind, and it was only with reluctance that they made way for the humans, and retreated into the waste and barren parts of the country, where they brought up their families in strict seclusion. Such was the ignorance of their offspring, that a young giantess, straying from home, once came to an inhabited valley, where for the first time in her life she saw a farmer plowing on the hillside. Deeming him a pretty plaything, she caught him up with his team, and thrusting them into her apron, she gleefully carried them home to exhibit them to her father. But the giant immediately bade her to carry the peasant and his horses back to the place where she had found them, and when she had done so, he sadly explained that the creatures whom she took for mere playthings would eventually drive the giants away and become masters of the earth. So those were The Giant's Ship, Princess Elise, and The Giant's Plaything, the 6th, 7th, and 8th sections of Chapter 23 of Myths of the Norsemen by Helene A Guerber, The Giants. I will be working my way through this book section by section, and if there are any other public domain books that you would like for me to read, please leave a comment below. Did you enjoy this video? Then subscribe for more, and be sure to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. Thank you for listening, and have a lovely evening.